rewind the clock back to the 1990s, it was a period of unbelievable change in the UK water industry, privatization, and massive, and I mean massive investment. So ATI was formed, and over the next decade, we did establish ourselves as a reliable, reputable supplier of water quality monitors to people like Severn Trent, United Utilities, etc. And we got lots of nice supply framework agreements. So if we can fast forward from that to about 2010, yours truly received a phone call from a contractor. It went something like this. Hi, Mike. Are you sat down? Yeah, I'm sat down. Why? Well, I need a price for some residual chlorine monitors. Okay, yeah. How many? 250. What? 250? Yeah, 250. Can't go into too much detail, but they're for Severn Trent Water, and we need them in about 8 weeks. Can you get me a quote? Okay. Now, anybody out there who's worked in sales knows that that's actually sort of bad good news. I mean, how is it possible for something like that to come out of the blue? $1 million worth of monitors. $1 million out of the blue. So I called my contacts at Severn Trent and said, okay, what's going on? What's happening with this project? And I was told that the monitors were needed for a study. Okay, that's some study. That's $1 million worth of equipment to do a study. It turned out that Severn Trent were having some taste and odor, water age, discoloration issues, and they needed to study that part of their network so they could get a better understanding of it and operate it and maintain it better. And that's where ATI's journey on the SmartWater flight path began, and it's why I'm here tonight. It's where my journey began as well. Because I quickly realized that if one company was going to do that, others would follow. But we also very quickly realized that our technology just was not fit for purpose. And there's a gentleman in the audience here today from Severn Trent who will confirm that in some cases they were literally nailing monitors to walls and throwing a hose and a pump into a reservoir to get data anyhow that they could, just to get this better understanding. So since 2010, in those 9 years that have passed, SmartWater has really, really moved up the agenda in our company and all around the world. There's a SmartWater conference at least twice a month in the UK alone. And I do see some familiar faces here from England, from Wales, from Portugal, and from the USA, who I saw in London 2 weeks ago. SmartWater is definitely happening. So, here I am. So before I go on to a little bit about the what of SmartWater, maybe we should ask why. Why is SmartWater on the agenda? Why is the water industry awash, and that pun is intended, with a talk of smart water? And as I see it, there are a number of drivers. Since I was 9 years old, which is the age of my youngest son, the world's population has doubled. That's doubled in less than my lifetime. And the signs are it's going to do the same and more in his lifetime. So population rise is definitely a driver. Water resources are static, or worse, falling around the globe. So in my part of the world, abstraction permits are getting tighter and tighter. England, okay, England, yes, wet, rainy, cold, wet, rainy England is getting drier by the year. The Environment Agency recently announced to the world that the south of England could run out of water in 10 to 15 years if we don't do something. 10 years, not really a long time. Per capita consumption in the developed world is around 120 to 200 liters per day. It's about 300 liters a day here. Leakage ranges from a low of 6 to a high of 40% around the world. And climate change, we've heard it today. Climate change is real. Forget the politics. It's actually happening. Now, one thing is for absolutely certain. We cannot engineer our way out of this. You know, we've got a water distribution systems which consist of hundreds of thousands of miles or kilometers, for people who use real units of measurement, of pipes, thousands of service reservoirs and pumping stations. It will take a century and billions of dollars to even think about replacing or refurbishing that. So we're not going to engineer our way out of this. We have to innovate our way to a solution. So that's a little bit about the why we have to get smart. So let's focus in on a little bit on what. What is SmartWater? Okay, we're going to get a picture in a minute. Here we go. Is that SmartWater? It says it is on the bottle, and it even says, inspired by clouds. Wow. Wow. Vapor distilled with added minerals. That is about as far from SmartWater as you can possibly ever get. So, first big opinion from me coming up. That stuff and its thousands of equivalents, to me, is as big a threat to the well-being of nation as tobacco and drugs. We're spending billions of dollars making it, billions of dollars buying it, and there's millions of tons of plastic polluting the water that we're trying to treat to drink. So that isn't SmartWater. So what do we, the great and the good of the SWAN Forum, what do we think SmartWater is? And there's thousands of definitions. I'm not going to pick just one. So many of us in here, we're technologists, we're data analysts, we're network managers, we're operations managers, and we're all probably very well familiar with the SWAN layer scheme. For those of you who aren't, we'll just go through it very quickly. So we have a dumb layer of pipes, reservoirs, etc., etc. And the first thing we need to put on top of that is some sensors, a bit of tech. And that's an area of massive change, even in the last 5 years. I remember visiting a service reservoir at the Philadelphia Water Department in 2008. They wanted to do some 5-parameter water quality monitoring. Well, the water quality monitor was as big as a 3-man tent. It used lots of power and lots of water. Fast forward to now, you can get multi-parameter water quality monitors. You can get 2 of them in a teacup. And they run for years on a battery. So sensors are moving on, it's happening. Okay, data storage and management, that's the next layer. So here's a quick survey. First of all, to make sure you're all awake and just to get some audience participation. Quick survey. Could you raise your hands if you can remember when the data storage facility at a water plant was a closet full of paper charts? Come on. Okay, another question. So how many of you remember when the biggest advance in data logging was a 2-pen chart recorder? There we go, get some nods there. Now, we're all living in a world where, as individuals and businesses, we've got access to cheap, secure, terabyte upon terabyte upon terabyte of data. So the data management and data handling layer, doable. But it's not just sensors, data, and data handling. The next layer we need to add the value is analytics. So AI and machine learning is already delivering insights. It's not next week, it's now. But more importantly, it's delivering the actions. So it's not analytics for analytics' sake, but analytics developed by data scientists who have one worldview and people with water domain expertise who have another worldview. They have to work together to get the best out of both of them. And we have to develop methods to deliver actionable actions. What do I mean by that? Well, I mean actions that are matched to the company's resources to actually do them. So yours truly, I'm sat in a meeting full of the joys of spring. And I started talking to a major water company's network manager. And I said, look, we can start to use this real-time turbidity data, and we can possibly forecast out a week from now the probability of a burst based upon your turbidity data. I felt fantastic. Great, I can predict a burst a week out. I was brought rapidly back down to earth when he said, aye, lad, aye, but it takes me 2 weeks to mobilize the leak repair team. So I've delivered him an unactionable action. The week just wasn't long enough. You've got to make the action fit with the resources. That was a northern accent, by the way, Manchester, just for those you don't know. Okay. So yeah, we're all well versed with the technology side of this stuff. That's what a lot of this conference is about. But as I go from conference to conference over the past few months and years, I've started to realize that there is an equally, or maybe even more important, low-tech or non-tech aspect to smart water. Some examples. Collaboration is smart. It's too big, this stuff. It's too complex, too broad for anybody, and I mean anybody. Any corporation in the world can't do this on their own. There is no one stack, one vendor solution. Business model change is smart. So the traditional supply chains are buying something, marking it up, selling it, doing it. It's just going to price smart water out of the market. We've got to find new ways to deliver this stuff. No, not just the traditional linear supply chain. Another thing which is smart, openness, for goodness sake. I heard a great comment recently. The water industry has more trials than a courthouse and more pilots than an airline. Okay, so we haven't got the time and the resource to just keep going on learning these lessons over and over and over again. We just share the lessons learned and move from pilots and trials to implementation. There's tons of stuff going on, but it's all happening in silos. We don't talk to each other. Let's start sharing this stuff at events like this. Changing customer behavior. That's part of smart water. Consumption's just got to go down. It's got to drop. So I believe we have to actually make wasting water as socially unacceptable as drink driving. It's important. Water industry, employee recruitment and retention is also really smart. At a conference in London a couple of weeks ago, Sean McCarthy, who was chosen to go and watch baseball instead of listen to me, which is terrible, of Anglian Water, he described how smart water and the IoT and data analytics could make our industry, and I'm using his words, sexy, and attract the younger, diverse workforce that we need to deliver this. Now, my question about chart recorders revealed all we need to know about our demographic. Influencing governments to actually take water really seriously, that's smart. This was something we should all be doing. At the same conference, I was listening to a presentation by Bert de Winter, Innovation Director of the Water Group from Flanders in Belgium. In the middle of a fabulous presentation, IoT, high-tech, acoustic, everything you would want on a smart water system, he just dropped a little bombshell into this presentation. 60% of Belgium houses have rainwater catchment and reuse systems. 60% of their houses. So their per capita consumption is 80 litres per day, and 60 is their target. That's half the average of the UK and a quarter of what it is here. So, I and you, we and our peers have to act. We have to act now. And I've seen some great applications and presentations of smart water around the world, from Black & Veatch, from Jacobs, from Welsh Water, from ATis, from Bristol Water, Aqualia. And that's in the last 2 months. We at ATI, we're collaborating in major smart water schemes with 11 of the 12 UK water companies, including a groundbreaking, multi-vendor, multi-platform, truly collaborative project. We've got competition. The competitors are collaborating and actually getting on with it. And I'm really pleased to see Tertius Rust of Southeast Water and James Durring of Cyrenix here today. They're part of this project. So yeah, of course, we, who are mainly in network management, supply chain, operations. We've got to leverage that technology and the domain expertise and know-how that's available right now. But that is just part of it. Again, another quote. Celeste Cantu, who is from the Santa Ana Watershed Project Authority, said recently, technology is really important, but it's not a silver bullet. We need a silver buckshot. We need lots of everything. So I believe that we have a duty, over and above our job, we have a duty to influence governments and legislators for things like water reuse. That's smart. Rainwater catchment. Embedded water labeling. So how much water do you think was used to make our dinner? How much water do you think went into making this soup? So, we have to influence customers and facilitate and motivate behavioral change. And we've got to start with our own business. I was at a conference 2 weeks ago, the same one, and on the tables was bottled water. At a SmartWater conference, please. We have to lead by example. But above everything else, we have to act smart. We have to collaborate. We need to share. We do need to collaborate. We need to be open. And guess what? We need to collaborate. And more than that, we've got to do it now. Just get on with it. Running out of time. Thank you very much.